X-Wings vs ESF from PlanetSide 2. Which one would you fly? Hello there you awesome possums, or should I say?
Hello there.
Yes, it's a versus video, but it's not what you think. So a couple of things before we begin. We'll be doing a point system here on which one's better in one category on a surface level analysis rather than doing an overall dogfight scenario. As for the categories, we're going with 7. Design or looks, maneuverability, defensive capabilities, speed, weaponry, air-to-air, and air-to-ground. Next, for the purposes of this video, we'll be sticking with flying in atmosphere. And lastly, I am rubbish when it comes to flying ESF, so my apologies for some of the clips. Now for a quick background on both fighters. On the left corner, the successor of the ARC 170 from the Clone Wars, the T-65 X-Wing Starfighter. This was first introduced in Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope, and it's the primary starfighter of the Rebel Alliance during the Galactic Civil War. This is also the preferred starfighters of orphan farm boys who may have once had the hots for their sister. Unmatched in versatility, the X-Wing brought numerous victories for the Alliance, from the Battle of the First and Second Death Star to the Empire's last stand in Jakku. On the right corner is the ESF, aka Empire Pacific Fighters, or the main air superiority fighters for the 3 main factions in PlanetSide 2. We have the Reaver for the New Conglomerate, the Mosquito for the Terran Republic, and the Scythe for the Vanu Sovereignty. The 3 ESFs may have small differences, but they are relatively similar in function. Now onto the first category, design or looks. Much like its predecessor the ARC 170, the X-Wing also uses S-foils or strike foils, giving the starfighter its iconic design and the ability to switch from flight mode to attack mode. By the way, S-foils is pretty much a nerdy way of saying movable wings. Despite being designed and manufactured by a well-known ship corporation in the Star Wars universe, the X-Wing looks like spare parts that have been put together a couple of times. However, it's safe to say that the X-Wing could very well be an example of function over style. Now for the ESF. Earlier I mentioned the ESFs have small differences and appearance is clearly one of them. The Terran Republic's Mosquito has a sleek aerodynamic-esque look and also looks like a flying fish with thick thighs. The New Conglomerate's Reaver has a more functional Apache helicopter-like appearance that screams freedom and capitalism. And the Vanu Sovereignty Scythe is just alien-looking. But for those who don't know, the Vanu Sovereignty are still basically Earthlings who just happen to worship aliens. As a Star Wars fan, I love the X-Wing, but if we're just basing this on looks, I'm giving this one to the ESF because it's a more elegant looking fighter for a more civilized age. Now let's talk maneuverability. While the T-65 X-Wing is renowned for its versatility, it doesn't particularly excel in other attributes such as maneuverability. Although it's worth noting that the X-Wing is categorized as an all-rounder ship, it's just it falls a bit short in the maneuverability department. But we all know that things that fall short often makes up in performance. Not that I know, it's just... Anyway, in other words, the X-Wing is a jack of all trades and a master of none fighter. The ESFs, on the other hand, is quite the opposite. Unlike other fighters, the ESF is unique with its swiveling engines. I guess it's something like the F-35's swiveling engine nozzle. Paired with vertical boosters, an ESF can perform crazy maneuvers while hovering or flying. Something like this. Okay, not the best move there, but I'm sure you get the picture. And as a bonus, ESFs can be outfitted with custom airframes, adding extra mobility to the aircraft. With all these said, it's an easy choice for the maneuverability category. The ESF takes a point once again. The best defense is a good defense. Okay, I don't know about that, but if there's one thing ships have in common in the Star Wars universe,
Deflector shield.
yes, deflector shields, and the X-Wing is no different. The X-Wing comes with its own shield generator, and like most ships, power can be diverted to the ship's deflector shields if necessary, meaning the ship can generate a stronger shield at the expense of weaker engine power and/or firepower. Aside from its countermeasures like the shaft particles or jammers, the X-Wing can also use astromechs, so basically the ship has a co-pilot/navigator/mechanic aboard, making repairs possible even during a firefight. Despite being known as flying cardboards, the ESF has something up its sleeve when it comes to defense. It can also use flare countermeasures, delay an enemy's lock-on time, and can be outfitted with extra armor plating. Although astromechs does not exist in the PlanetSide universe, the ESF has its own repair systems, an on-demand fire suppression system, and a nanotech-based auto-repair system. It sounds good, however, there's a catch. You cannot equip everything at the same time. While both fighters have their own countermeasures and repair systems, it's just hard to pass on shields that could soften blows if you get hit. Therefore, the T-65 X-Wing gets a defense point. Moving on to the speed category. Yes, the X-Wing has its own hyperdrive, making it light speed capable. But again, we're just talking about flying in atmosphere. And in atmosphere, the T-65 X-Wing has a top speed of 1,050 km per hour thanks to its 4 engines. With the deflector shields on, it could even reach hypersonic speeds. 1,000 kph is not too bad, considering our earthly F-18s and F-22s fly almost twice as fast. Now, the ESFs are a bit behind, but let's see what we have. The Mosquito, the Reaver, and the Scythe has an average top speed of 206 km per hour and an afterburner speed of 329. So even with the custom speed airframe for the ESF, in terms of raw speed, the winner is quite obvious here. The X-Wing speeds its way to another point. Now what about weapons? The T-65 X-Wing can carry up to 6 proton torpedoes and fire 2 at a time. And these proton torpedoes can penetrate certain shields like from capital ships or smaller fighters. In addition, and as we all know, laser blasters or cannons are a thing in the Star Wars universe, and the X-Wing has 4 of those. One laser cannon is mounted on each wing and can be fired all at once or alternating fire. With these armaments paired with an onboard targeting computer, it's evident how the Alliance favored the X-Wing. As for the ESF, it has a variety of armaments to choose from depending on the target or mission. For example, the M14 Banshee, an anti-infantry cannon for the Mosquito, or the Photon air-to-air missiles for the Scythe. From light to heavily armored vehicles to infantry forces, the ESF has the perfect murder weapon for that. Okay, I know lasers and space magic are basically OP compared to projectile weapons, but the ESF takes this one because of the variety of ordnance or weapons it has. I'd rather have weapons tailored for a specific target or mission rather than a one-size-fits-all. Now for the air-to-air category. The X-Wing was specifically designed for dogfighting and long missions, but in true Rebel fashion, dogfighting isn't where the X-Wing shine, but rather in the Alliance's hit-and-run tactics on much larger capital ships like what we've seen in Rogue One. Although the hit-and-run tactic is more of a collective effort of the Alliance, the X-Wing is an integral piece of this strategy. The ESF is well capable when it comes to air-to-air because as mentioned in the previous category, it has a ton of weapons including air-to-air and they're very maneuverable. But there's a huge but. The 200 or 300 km per hour doesn't look too appealing when it comes to air-to-air because dogfighting is one thing, retreating, giving chase, or covering your territory is another. So taking speed into consideration in this category, we're giving this one to the X-Wing. And for the final category, air-to-ground. Once again in Rogue One, we saw Y-Wings and X-Wings decimate an Imperial base with a hit-and-run tactic. And in Force Awakens, we saw ground troops get wrecked by a T-70 X-Wing. Although it's a newer model, it's pretty much the same as a T-65. As mentioned in the weapons category, the ESF has air-to-air and air-to-ground weapons. But the one thing that makes them deadly to ground units is its ability to hover. Like how it took speed into consideration for air-to-air, we're taking maneuverability for air-to-ground. Just imagine an Apache helicopter transforming into a jet and vice versa. An air superiority fighter with crazy mobility and maneuverability, even while hovering, is definitely bad news to ground units. So having said that, the ESF takes the air-to-ground category, and with a score of 4-3, the ESF wins this versus match. Okay, I know it sounds a bit biased since I do PlanetSide content, but I've been a fan of Star Wars since this, so it hurts me too. But no, seriously, like I mentioned at the beginning, this is all surface level analysis and dogfight could be a different story. So what do you guys think? Following the same categories, which one would win in your opinion? Or better yet, which one would win in a dogfight? Be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments below. Anyway, if you like this video, please give it a like and consider subscribing if you haven't yet. Thanks for watching and as always, stay awesome, possum.